Today's video, I'm going to be changing the axle on this 2012 Nissan Rogue. So the reason why we're changing it is you can see that boot is torn and it's just flinging grease everywhere. So that is why we're going to change it. Eventually water and everything, dirt and debris will get inside and ruin it. So my plan of attack, I'm going to remove the caliper because that brake line is going to limit us from swinging it forward. I'm going to remove the two strut bolts if needed, maybe the tie rod, but I don't want to mess with the ball joint, just because I know sometimes when you take off or attempt to take off a ball joint, you rip the boot and everything, and I don't want to ruin that ball joint. So I'm going to go ahead and try with the strut removal first. If not, I guess we're gonna have to take out the bottom ball joint. First thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take off the axle. You gotta take off this cotter pin. There's this little cap for the nut, and then we'll take the nut off. Okay, the axle nut is a 32 millimeter.
But he said, no,
I'm going to use an impact. You can use a breaker bar or a big ratchet and then put a screwdriver right here in the slots of the rotor so it doesn't spin. But I got a impact, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Okay, we're going to take off the brake line holder. I'm going to take off the caliper, which is a 14 millimeter. Okay, I just put it out the way. I'm gonna see if we're gonna need to take off this, but this one doesn't look like you're gonna need to. Just unplug it. You got all this play. You can leave that right there. Now we're gonna take off the two strut bolts. They are 21 millimeter nuts and bolts. Okay, now we got the whole knuckle sitting on the lower control arm. Hopefully we have enough room to pull out the axle. There we go. Easy. No tension on anything but the ball joint and the tie rod. Alright, so now we got the axle in, or the nut in. Now we just got to pry it out of the transmission. Now we're going to go ahead and take off the bracket that holds the axle. There's two 12 millimeter bolts. Okay, I got a drain pan and a splash panel under it. I was messing with this because I saw this kind of poking out, so I was messing with it. The axle ended up sliding out easy, so I'm not going to have to use that tool right there. But I wasn't ready for the axle to come out, so I made a big mess. I put a lot of purple powder after I cleaned up the mess. But yeah, so be careful. I know in other places in the world where it's rusty, the bearing gets stuck. Well, this one isn't. I'm in California, so it came out pretty easy. So now we're gonna go ahead and pull it out. Make sure you got your drain pan on you. We're gonna go ahead and slide it out. Right there, now it's in. There you go, that's all. Now with the axle in, we're gonna go ahead and put this plate back in. It holds the bearing in place. Now with the bearing bracket installed, we can go ahead and install the axle. Gonna line up the threads. We're gonna need to use the jack to lift it up to line up the knuckle and the strut. Okay, so what I can find for this torque for the strut bolts, it's 116 and 130. I'm gonna go 125 on the higher end. Now you can bring your caliper all the way back around. And place it on the caliper mount. Torque on these caliper is 16 to 23. I'm going to put 20. You can go ahead and put your sensor back in into the little grommets. Now we can go ahead and put our brake line. Now we're going to go ahead and put the axle nut in. Torquing it to 138. Now we can throw in our little top hat. Now that you got everything done, go ahead and go over every bolt that you touch, making sure that it's tight, torque to spec. And if you lost any fluid like I did, go ahead and pick up some transmission fluid, top it off, and check your fluid level and make sure you're good. Hopefully this video helps you. You have a good one.